Welcome back to Maniacal Reader. Today I'm going to be doing my December wrap-up. I read a lot of books in December, so let's get started. The first book I read was Heartless. This is the 7th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I won't go into detail about talking about this book, but I'll put a link to the review that talks about this book up above on the screen, so you guys can check it out. The next book I read was Wanted. This is the 8th book in the Pretty Little Liars series, and it concludes the second arc of the series. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was amazing. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's definitely one of my favorites in the series. I'll put a link to the review that talks more about this book so you guys can check it out if you want to. Naturally, the next book I read was Allie's Pretty Little Lies. This is a companion book to the series, and it was published after the 8th book in the series. In this book we learn more about Allison's disappearance and how it all came together. Again, I'm not going to talk about this book since it's the middle of a series and I won't spoil you, but I'll put a link to the review on the screen in case you want to find out more of my thoughts on this book. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my favorites in the series. The next book I read was Twisted. This is the 9th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I gave this book 2 stars because I didn't really find this book that interesting, and this book starts the 3rd arc in the Pretty Little Liars series. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts as to why I didn't like it, I'll put a review up on the screen so you guys can check it out. Obviously, the next book I read was Ruthless. This is the 10th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I really liked this book and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked Spencer's storyline in this book. That's mostly why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Stunning. This is the 11th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I gave this book 2 stars because not a lot in this book interested me, especially Emily's storyline. I thought it was kind of boring and it didn't really hold my attention, so that's why I gave it 2 stars. The next book I read was Burned. This is the 12th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars since this book mainly focused on the A storyline, which is why I liked it so much. Next up, I read Crushed. This is the 13th book in the Pretty Little Liars series, and it starts the last arc. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because I really enjoyed it, mainly because of the A storyline in this book and how it was the main focus. I really enjoyed the ending of this book and I was completely floored and I couldn't wait to see what happened next. The next book I read was Deadly. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because I thought it was just amazing. This book mainly focused on the A storyline again since we're getting near the end of the series now. And the reveals in this book were just incredible. I could not stop reading and I didn't expect to get so many reveals this late in the series. So I was really happy about that. And that's why I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is definitely one of my favorites in the series. Next up, I have Toxic. This is the second last book in the Pretty Little Liars series, and I gave it 2 stars because I wasn't really that interested in this book. This book was a filler to me mostly, so that's why I didn't like it. In fact, it felt like I was living in an alternate universe other than the Pretty Little Liars series, and I talk more about that in one of my reviews. Overall, I liked the Pretty Little Liars series. It was a great read for me, and I definitely recommend it. After reading the Pretty Little Liars series, which I finished in the middle of December, I read Shade by Jerry Smith Reddy. This is the first book in a YA paranormal fantasy series. It follows this girl named Aura, who is in a relationship with a guy named Logan. On Aura's 16th birthday, after her boyfriend's band has a performance, she decides to make love with her boyfriend for the first time. But she doesn't know that it's going to be her boyfriend's last night. When Logan unexpectedly dies, this devastates Aura. Since Aura is born after something called the Shift, she has the ability to communicate with ghosts. I gave this book 3 stars because I liked it, but it didn't blow me away or anything. I have a review up of this book. I'll put a link on the screen here so you guys can click on it and check it out. After reading Shade, since I was interested in continuing the trilogy, I had to buy the next 2 books in the trilogy, but while I was waiting, I read Matched by Ali Condi. I had this book on my September TBR, but because of school, it kept on getting pushed back, and I told you guys in December in my TBR I was finally ready to get to this book and I was excited to read it. I was kind of disappointed by this book. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I hated the author's writing style, and I didn't like the fact that this book had a slow beginning. I was also annoyed with the main character and how he couldn't make up her mind as to which guy she wanted to be with. The story has a love triangle in it, and her inner monologue annoyed me because it was just back and forth between the 2 guys, and I didn't really like that much either. So that's why I gave this book 2 stars, and I definitely won't be continuing on with the trilogy. Since I was still waiting for the rest of the Shade trilogy to come in, and I didn't want to read the rest of the Match trilogy, I ended up picking up The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. This is the first book in a YA paranormal fantasy trilogy. It follows this girl named Mara Dyer who is having flashbacks and hallucinations of an accident that killed her best friend and boyfriend. Since Mara is an unreliable narrator, it's hard to decipher which scenes in this book are real and which ones are hallucinations. I found this book really confusing because of that, but I also found it really gripping since there's a lot of mysterious stuff going on. I also liked Mara's relationship with Noah Shaw, but I won't talk much about this book since I do plan on filming a review on it soon. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it, and I'm definitely continuing on with the trilogy. The next book I read is Shift. This is the second book in the Shade trilogy. I won't go into too much detail of this book since this is a sequel and I don't want to spoil you guys. But I plan to make a separate review for this book as well as the final book in the Shade trilogy. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because I thought it brought the trilogy to a new level and things were definitely more exciting in this book. I can't wait to see what happens in the conclusion. I don't know if I'll finish this book in December since it's the 28th today, but I'm confident I will. I'll have a review up soon of this final book once I finish it. That's all the books I have to show you in my December wrap-up. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Well, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I've bought some corn for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.